Another pair of words is assets and liabilities.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. And finally, a word
Contrast.
Okay.
Contrast, reasons to focus.
Okay. And a word that when I hear it...
And we're talking right over the top of you, don't apologize to us. There are some liabilities that can be assets.
It's all perspective.
Because contrast is such a good thing.
Right. A particular word that when I hear, especially it's often described within the, I don't know if I want to say the word, the metaphysical community, they talk about service and serving others. And when I hear that word, I just bristle because it's like, you're not doing enough and you should do more. Can you put that into a better frame of reference so I can feel better about that notion?
I don't use that word either. But the reason that it feels off to you is because usually it's someone on a lower flying disc that's trying to motivate you to do something that they need you to do so that they will feel better. And so they're asking for your service, and you can sort of tell where they're at by their response if you don't jump through the hoop that they've put before you. Mm-hmm. If you don't serve them in the way that they sought to be served, then they pronounce you as doing something inappropriate. You're selfish, or you're
right.
Inappropriate in some way.
But when the word
but the fact of the matter is, when you are on your high-flying disc and you have the source that creates worlds flowing to you and through you, you are of such service to this world because
right.
You're extending that source energy to them in a way that they might not have been able to receive it before if it were not for your concentration and focus and redistributing of it.
The context in which that word is used, though, is if someone is speaking to a group, they're saying, service is such a good thing to help these people or to help the disadvantaged or to help that. And I know that if you see them as disadvantaged, that you're not going to be of any help to them because you're going to be where they are, like poor you, and now I'm going to come and offer you from my poor you place not much. But when they talk about that, they say that it's such a good thing. And so I don't mean one person telling me to do something in service to them. I'm sort of talking about the general pronouncement that we are here to serve, and that we should do that and do that in a way that is helping the less fortunate. And I'm just using that word very generally.
Well, since you are an extension of source energy, you are of enormous service to source energy, because we get to flow to you and through you, and that serves us.
Right.
When you are interacting with others, you can tell when you are of pure service and when you are not. And if we are calling service the extension of the well-being, in other words, let's say in the context of society as it is asking you for service, that there is an assumption that there are those who are more prosperous who then would serve others. So let's use that parallel and say that there is this stream of source energy that is available, that you have access to, that you're wanting to distribute as best you can. And often, in that inspired alignment, you take all kinds of actions that are more detailed, more momentum service. In other words, a kind word is a nice thing, but a kind word in pure alignment is a nicer thing. And a kind thought is a nice thing. A kind thought in alignment is a nicer thing. A kind word in that alignment is nicer still. A kind action in that alignment is nicer still. But the question is always about the condition of the recipient. In other words, service has to be met by someone who's open to receive. You get what we're talking about?
Sure.
And so a lot of people are feeling like they must not be doing it right because they're doing everything in their power to be helpful, and people aren't being helped.
Right.
And so then Esther starts almost every day out when she gets out and about in one of her vehicles with a few $20 bills in her pocket. And she watches for opportunities to pass them on. And there are plenty of them. Mm-hmm. And she decided not to be too discretionary about who she chooses to give it to and who not to. She just decides if there's someone standing on the corner and with or without a sign, And they make eye contact with her. She's going to roll her window down and she's going to hand them $20. Now, as she hands them the $20, that's when she tries to define how well they are receiving it. In other words, do they stand on that corner and collect hundreds of dollars every day? Do they turn it over to some other organization? Is this a job for them? Does the sign really mean what the sign says? Does this really mean if you give me something, I may be able to go get something to eat? There's way too much to figure out on the spur of the moment. And so Esther's decided that she's just going to offer the $20. And as she is putting it in their hand, she tries to let her hand touch their hand a little bit because something nice about that. And she says to them, I hope that you are really good to yourself. And their response to that statement, she can tell right away. And in the majority of cases, she can tell that her $20 is of service. It's of service. Now, should she start handing out $100? Would that be more service? We think the amount of money that she puts in their hand is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. We think it is that she acknowledges them as a person, enough to roll her window down. She acknowledges them as a value, enough to touch them. Mm-hmm. And she acknowledges that life could be better for them as it could be for everyone if you're just good to yourself, you see. Nice. And we say, because she can't control how they receive it. She can't control what they do with it. And she does not want to judge whether it was of any real value to them. Because the service was in the offering. That's the service that
so it was self-serving.
It was self-serving for Esther. Self-serving for Esther. Because when you're tuned into, there's just too much to appreciate for just me.
Right.
You see?
Right.
There's so much to appreciate. There's so much to appreciate. There's so much good to see. There's so much music to hear. There's so much value to be a part of. There's so much to be happy about.
Right.
There's so much life to live. There are so many places to go and people to see and things to do. Right. In other words, you are extensions of source energy. Extension of source energy. And source energy feels good flowing through you.
My final thing...
Talk about service.
Right.
That's worth contemplating. Source never goes away. Source never stops thinking about you. And Source never stops offering. Nice service, huh?
Very nice.